What a beautiful ball. Now it's Cristiano Ronaldo with a chance maybe to seal it, and he has taken it. Love in all kinds of space. Love, Muller through. Muller could be embarrassing. It's three. Tony Kroos. Olivier Giroud. Marquez found Klein with a speedy burst, and that's terrific from Vardy. Oh, what a goal by Jamie Vardy.
Hello and welcome. It's day 6. Hashtag TFHP Euros. Football Hipsters podcast back in your ears. I am your host, Kris, and we have 3 games to talk about once again. And I've got 2 of the regular crew back with me. I've got Drew once again at short notice. Sorry, Drew. Good evening.
Hey guys, good evening.
I didn't introduce you last this time. That's a miracle. And,
Yay!
and I've also got John with me as well. Good evening, John.
Hello.
Right then, so what have we got to talk about today then, gentlemen? Well, we're going to rattle through today's games, have a little bit of a preview on tomorrow's games, and I think John's got a tweet to bring us up to date with about the fantasy football as well, so lots to cover. So let's start with you then, John, because you saw the entirety of Russia 1, Slovakia 2. Now, I shall ask you for your thoughts on the game, and in particular, do you see this as a massive upset?
I don't think it's a huge upset. We said before the tournament that Slovakia had some talented players and that Russia were missing key ones. And it really looked like it today. They lacked creativity again, like they did in the England game. They were poor in possession. They were very slow. And their only outlet was the right back, whose name I'm probably going to butcher. I have to find out what it is now. But at the end, for all his going forwards, the right back is Smolikov. Is that the guy? That's the name.
Yes.
Yep. I've probably said that horribly wrong. Really, really quick and fantastic up and down and running all day. But in the end, it was actually him caught out of position. And Vladimir Weiss got in, and it was an amazing ball by Marek Hamsik, who throughout the game was the one bit of class and quality, really. There wasn't a lot of amazing talent on display, but you could see Hamsik was a level above everyone. Put a fantastic ball in for Weiss, who brought it down, and to be fair, the Russian defence should have done better. There's 2 of them marking him, and he's always going to cut back inside. He had nowhere else to go, and they let him come inside too easy, and it was a good finish. But yeah, great ball from Hamsik. And the second goal, Hamsik himself made it. Absolute rocket off the post, hits the other side of the net. Really, really good strike. Probably goal of the tournament. Just the way he hits the ball. Really good. But yeah, Russia got a goal back. Grishikov late on with a header. They threw some, more balls in the box and everything. Similar to like in the England game, and Slovakia sat deeper. Perhaps they shouldn't have, but decent result for Slovakia. It means the England-Wales game obviously now becomes slightly more tricky for England because they're going to face Slovakia in the last game, and if they have to push on to them, that's perfect. Slovakia can hit them on the counter, which we saw a couple of times in this game. They're very, very quick in transition, and in Hamsik they've got a real threat, but Russia were really, really disappointing.
Yeah, really puts, as you say, pressure on that England game, which we'll have a brief natter about towards the end of this pod today. But a good result for Slovakia, absolutely. And I just wonder if that makes England fans maybe look at that Russia game now and think, oh, how did we not beat them? But I guess that's the benefit of hindsight. Drew, we had Marek Hamsik very much back on form with an assist and a goal. He was always going to be key to the Slovakia side doing anything in the tournament. But did you expect him to have this much of a say? I mean, essentially, he's kind of contributed towards both goal, obviously, and has contributed towards the win in a huge part. So do you think he's crucial going into the final game with England?
Well, I mean, I think he's going to be crucial no matter what. I think you just said it before that, and I think we all agreed, at least by and large, that any success Slovakia can have, a lot of it has to do with the fact that they are so good on the counter and in transition, like John just pointed out. But Hamsik is the one that usually is where those counterattacks originate from. He's the playmaker. He's a talismanic figure. His vision is excellent, but he also, we've seen before, and we saw in the first match, where he can pick up the ball and he can make runs on his own with the ball at his feet and try to make things happen on his own without relying on other players to make the runs for him. So I do think that their chances sort of live and die just on him. And the supporting cast is decent. It's not that there's not players around him, but he's just so above the rest of the team that he has to take that role. It's his responsibility to almost want to carry the team on his shoulders. Kind of similar to Ronaldo, but I think Hamsik is doing a better job of it, at least at the moment.
Yeah, he's going to be absolutely vital. And Vladimir Weiss also very, very good. And had he not moved to Qatar, you just wonder where he could be now. It's an interesting one, that. But nevertheless, a good win for Slovakia. But John, just touching briefly on Russia before we move on. Obviously, there's a lot going on with regards to their fans. And of course, they're potentially supposed to stage a World Cup in 2 years' time. It's a bit of a loaded question, I know. But in a weird way, if Russia can essentially not qualify, so I think for that to happen, there has to be a winner in tomorrow's game. I think I'm right in saying, and because they're probably not going to be one of the best third choice teams if that happens. If Russia are in a position where they either can't or don't look like qualifying, do you think that sort of fan base could just go absolutely crackers on the final game and really cause issues? Because if they get thrown out, I mean, they're not going to lose anything, are they? I can't see them having the World Cup taken off them.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's going to happen. There's no way they'll take the World Cup off them. There's so many investigations going on into fraud and whether certain countries got the World Cup illegally through bribes and all sorts of things. And I think Russia is one of those countries under investigation. That's not to single them out. I'm sure that it wouldn't surprise me if every country had in some way done some sort of underhand deal, slightly bending or breaking the rules. As for the fans, I don't know. It's really hard to say because you get conflicting reports. There's been lots of reports that it was more English fans than it has been Russians. There's been reports that it was local fans in France, and that it was a lot of the trouble was caused by Marseille ultras. So it's very difficult to read in too much into everything. What I would say is anyone, if you really want to see what's going on, is try and read or follow the journalists who are there on the ground outside the stadium, sort of walking around when there are matches on and they're not attending the matches themselves, because they get a real insight as to what's going on. I don't think there'd be any more trouble either way, whether they got through or not. The flip side of the argument is if Russia carried on and stayed in the tournament and their fans that really are the ones causing all the problems, then would that not be worse for the competition than if they had one sort of blowout evening where they kind of went a bit nuts? But I think it's a little bit unfair to lay all the blame at their fans. I'm sure it's a small percentage of them, small percentage of English fans, and probably fans from other countries as well, or maybe even some of the locals.
Yeah, I think that's very good points, well made. It's going to be, I think, it's just going to be really bizarre, isn't it? It's just going to be a bit crackers with regards to this fan issue, and I don't think we've heard the end of it, sadly. But nevertheless, we shall leave that behind for now until it crops up, no doubt, again. Drew, let's move on then to another game which was in a different group, and this was Romania and Switzerland, ended in a 1-1 draw. Now, question I've got for you, do you think Romania will look back and think that's an opportunity we missed, because they were a goal up and I wouldn't say in control, but they seemed to have a lot of the better of that first half, and then obviously Switzerland equalised through Mehmeti. So who's going to be happy with this result?
I think they are going to be a little bit disappointed. They looked a lot better in the first half, and there was a lot of talk pre-match and during the first half that the changes that were made, the likes of Stensu didn't actually start, and they were saying that the coach actually rested players because they were that tired after their first performance. And I think you saw tired legs in the second half, which is why Switzerland really nailed down their performance. Switzerland struggled in the first half, honestly, and I think Romania, the game plan was working. They counterattacked very, very well. Switzerland, didn't really get very many clean-cut chances, and Romania looked comfortable defensively. And then, once you hit maybe like the 55th minute or so, 60th minute, their legs really just got heavier. And I think you have to question the fitness a little bit, because I think that was a match that was winnable. And even performed well against the French. It took a last-minute bit of skill from Dimitri Payet to rescue all 3 points for France. So I think on the balance of both matches, I think Romania has come here and done what they wanted to do. They've defended well, they've countered, their system's been working. But if it's fallen just short in regards to what's looking at in the standings. But I think they'll be happy enough, because that point's crucial, because now they can go into the last match against quote unquote the easier of all the teams in the group. And if they get a win there and hope that France do number on Switzerland, that helps goal difference. So if a win there might see them in as one of the best third place teams, depending on what goes on in the group. So it's a valuable point, but I think they might think that 3 points was possible.
Yeah, it seems a very sort of result I didn't see coming, I must admit. John, what did you make of it? Because the Swiss, much like Austria, sorry Tom, and a few other sides, I suppose. I mean, you could probably throw Slovakia into that. Who else was Portugal? There's a few sides that came into this tournament, and Belgium, of course, who everyone sort of tipped for greatness or who thought could be real tournament dark horses. The Swiss they've not looked great, have they? They've had good patches. But yet again today makes you think: are they really all that?
I think the people who perhaps rated them highly obviously haven't seen them enough. I know they did well in terms of where they got to in the World Cup in the last tournament, but they're just a very sort of well drilled, decent defensively. The midfield's quite good, and they've got some creativity. They don't have a real out-and-out sort of striker that's of a certain level, which is something that's you've seen sort of through a lot of the teams this tournament. And they're creative players that they do have. Shaqiri, when he's on it, he's fantastic, but it's so hit and miss with him. This is why he wasn't successful at Bayern Munich, and he's now playing for Stoke, and that's not an insult to Stoke. It's just, you get to a certain level, and then suddenly people go, oh, actually, maybe he's not quite as good as we thought. Ricardo Rodriguez is a great outlet, but if you haven't got a striker who's going to put the chances away, then it's not going to work for you. I'm not sure why Mbolo wasn't starting. They were very slow, the Swiss, especially in the first half, and Romania were a lot better than I thought. Actually, we always knew they're very good, stoic defensively, and they showed that against France. But they actually offered, I thought, a lot more on the counter today. So yeah, Switzerland, I think probably will still get out of the group. I would think, but there's got to be some changes. I think if they go with Mbolo up front, they've got more chance, to get the goals because they at least can stretch teams more.
It's kind of weird, isn't it? Because again, it's like I said previously, there's just so many teams that everyone expected more from, and it's not happened. It's not happened for them at all. But interesting. Okay, so
yeah, the other thing to say as well is obviously that Romania got their goal from a penalty.
Yeah.
It was a penalty. There's no denying that. It was the correct awarding of it. But for clear-cut chances that they created in the game, there wasn't a lot. Switzerland didn't give too many away. There was one or two sort of hairy moments, and like Johan Giroud did what in the end was a good clearance, but could have easily been an own goal, and he just managed to get his sort of foot round it enough to put it past the post. So I think I understand what Drew's saying. Romania will be annoyed because they were in the lead and they looked fairly comfortable and weren't troubled too much by Switzerland. But I think equally Switzerland will think, well, if we didn't give away a stupid penalty, then maybe we could have got it to 0-0 at half time, changed things around a little bit, and then taken the lead ourselves.
Yeah, I think that's also a very, very fair point, and it will be interesting to see how the rest of this group goes because it's kind of, well, we'll talk about France in a minute, but it's kind of open. Drew, just before we move on to France, have you got a prediction do you think one of these two teams is going to qualify with France potentially? Do you think that they will both qualify with France potentially?
Oh man, I'm not quite sure. I mean, it really all depends. The Swiss, they're despite having some defenders that are in good leagues. Fabian Schär, he plays in the Bundesliga. Same as Ricardo Rodriguez. Lichtsteiner's been around forever. He plays for Juve. So, and Jan Sommer is one of the better goalkeepers in Germany. But they still, if it's up against a team who are better in the attack, I think they might struggle defensively. Romania struggles to score goals. We saw that in qualifying. They don't create a lot of clicker chances, like John just said, and Albania was much the same way. I think France will beat the test, and honestly, if 4 points is a good spot for them. So I think they're going to be okay now. Even if they lose, they can still qualify. Worst case scenario as one of the better third place teams because they already got that crucial win. I think someone did the math and said if you just get 3 points in the group stage, you have an 87% chance of making the next round because of the best third place spots. So I think they'll qualify. I don't know if Albania or Romania are going to qualify because both teams lack goals, but both teams are traditionally, they like to set up in defense. You can just see it being played out as a draw. because they can't score very many, but they defend much better. You can just see like a 0-0 or a 1-1, and that won't do them any good either. So I think the Swiss will still be okay, despite their struggles and despite having to play France. So yeah.
Yeah. That's again, good points made all round there.
Yeah, I think that the last bit in that group, the Romania Albania, that game, I think it's the onus is on Romania to be the attacking team, which I don't think they're used to doing too often.
No, that's a good
So it'll be interesting to see how that goes, because I mean, if they get a win in that, regardless of the Swiss result, having 4 points in that group is probably good enough to get them through to the next round, which is what they probably that would be a decent result for them.
Yeah. So I have to say as well, I know a lot of people will probably be shouting at their podcast, well, who is it they could potentially play if they finish here and there? You know what? I'm not even going to go there until we're in the final games because it's so confusing about who draws who. But by match day 3, we should know a bit more about who's going to potentially play who. So save it for them, people, please.
I'm gonna look up a Euro predictor while we pod while I'm on mute, and I'll tell you who they can potentially play.
Cool. See, that's why I have the best team around. You see, people, because they do it all for me as I think about it. Let's move on to France then. Brilliant host that I am, the team that I follow, I couldn't even watch tonight, but unfortunately I had some training of my own to do. But I have seen the goals because John, they arrived rather late. France against
Just a little.
Yeah, seems to be a habit, a good habit, I have to say. But France arrived into this game against Albania, having lost to Albania in a friendly not so long ago. Blatantly knew what they were going to get. Albania were, from what I've been told and from what I've read and heard, they were very disciplined. They sat deep. They defended well. France had chances and missed them. And then, wouldn't you know it, 89 minutes, everyone's kind of thinking, oh, here we go again. And they get 2 goals, one in the last minute, one in stoppage time, which we'll cover in a second. But I want to sort of dig deeper into this. What did you make of France as a whole? Because there's 2 sides to this argument. Did they just miss chances and play very well? Or do you think missing the chances is as a result of not particularly playing well?
I don't think they were particularly good. They obviously had quite a fair bit of the ball. Albania were happy for them to have it. They changed the system slightly. Pogba was dropped, and oh god, who else was dropped from the first game? Griezmann as well were both dropped to the bench. So it shifted the system slightly. Coman started, which I don't think anyone really had a problem with. Martial was out wide. The midfield then, Payet was sat behind Giroud, which was fine, but it is interesting for English viewers. We had Slaven Bilic in the studio sort of doing the punditry coverage before the game and at half time, and he was saying that he always thinks that Payet's better playing from the left and not in the number 10 role, which is sort of when he first said it, I thought, well, that's a bit strange, but I suppose he's his manager, so he would know. And second half, when they shifted him out to the left and brought some subs on, changed it round, it did actually work a lot better for them. They switched to more of a 4-3-3. They had so many chances, France. Most of them did fall to Giroud, who unfortunately missed a lot of them, was booed off by not all of the fans, but quite a few of the French fans. He did hit the post, which I know doesn't count as a shot on target, but he had some really, really good chances that he should have at least tested the keeper with. And then they brought on Gignac, who, to be fair, is a very similar type of player. So they weren't necessarily going to change things that much, but he didn't really get the chance. And in the end, it was just because they threw so many bodies forward that Griezmann ended up unmarked and got an easy header coming off sub bench to get the goal. And obviously Payet, who was one of their bright sparks yet again, got the second goal very late on. It's weird, France. I'm not sure what exactly is wrong. I wasn't against the changes they made for the game. I thought there were other players that could have been dropped just as easily. Blaise Matuidi has been really poor, I think, in both games. He's a player I really like and he's fantastic, but he really hasn't offered a lot. Paul Pogba hasn't been great and was dropped, which was fair enough. But I just thought out of the two, if one of them's going to affect the game in a positive way, get a goal or create something, I just think it's more likely to be Pogba. Griezmann, I understand he wasn't very good in the first game, but if you've got that much talent and ability, I think you just have to play the player. Sometimes you just have to say, no, you are that good. and give it up. And the other thing as well is that Albania created a few chances as well. They were a little bit rickety at the back France. They didn't look particularly steady. They looked a bit nervy, especially as time went on and they hadn't got the goal. The one player who looked calm throughout was Payet, who really is turning into his tournament at the moment. He's been fantastic for him. Some of the balls and deliveries he's put in, really good. And Slaven Bilic was spot on. As soon as he went out to the left, he was great. Yes, he cut in a lot, but it just opened up the pitch for him. He didn't have his back to goal when he was receiving the ball. He was facing forwards, running at people, making the defence turn and face their own goal. And it really helped France go forwards. But yeah, too many wasted chances. In the group stage, it's fine. It's obviously they've got through now, all 6 points. But when they get to play better teams, I don't think they're going to be able to create so much and not take them without being punished.
Yes, again, very, very good analysis of the game and indeed the system. And I want to just touch on that a little bit, Drew, because as John said there, Kingsley Coman and Anthony Martial back into the side today. Not just that, but there's a complete change of formation, which a lot of the French supporters and journalists and whatnot have said that they think it would suit France better to go for 2-3-1, and that's exactly what they did tonight with Blaise Matuidi sitting deeper with N'Golo Kante and shifting the Martial and Coman wide with Payet in his preferred number 10 role. So is this something, given the fact that France struggled for so long before they got the breakthrough, is it something you think that they will repeat, or do you expect the likes of Pogba and Griezmann to be back in the side next game out?
I mean, people are probably not going to like me very much with what I'm about to say, but I do agree with John. I think it largely it worked. France had 21 chances tonight, so clearly, and half of those came in the first half, and unfortunately, Giroud fluffed a few. I think Giroud at least France should have gone into half at least 1-0 up, if not 2-0 up. Such for the chances, but it worked to an extent. But honestly, the whole point of starting both Coman and Martial was to have pace on the wings for them to stretch the back four, because you knew that Albania were going to sit compact, tight, and defenders need to be drawn away. But the problem was Martial and both Coman both drifted too centrally too often. Maybe because they're used to doing that at club level for United and Bayern Munich or whatever have you, but they didn't stretch enough. They also didn't really try to beat players on the ball enough. We saw Coman do that lovely roulette once, and he was a little bit better at it than Martial, but I think they relied too much on Payet's creativity, which is fantastic, but sometimes when pacey players out wide and the ball's at their feet, sometimes it's good to just run at defenders, try to beat them, get them into foul trouble, things like that. Even just those little things would be much better. Than France didn't really have that in the first match, and they struggled with it in the second, I think, a little bit. But I do think they should have won. Well, I mean, obviously they won slightly more comfortable than what you would expect, but they have a clinical problem, and I think that could also come back to bite them. I think Giroud has now 8 chances from inside the penalty area in the tournament in 2 matches, and he's only hit the target once, and that's the goal he scored. But he's at the bar once, and the other 6 he's either put wide or over the bar. So from a center forward, even if you could say that he might not need more goals, he has to at least be testing the keeper more, because you never know. A good save gets you a corner, could get you a rebound back to the striker, could give you a rebound back to someone who's making that late run into the box after the chance was created. So France needs to be a little bit more clinical with the chances that they're getting from Payet, who now, if I'm not mistaken, he's created 14 chances in 2 matches for them, and he has a goal and 2 assists, so he's absolutely vital. So they need to really be a little bit better about finishing what he gets, because they might not get these types of chances later on against the Germanys or whoever they come up against. So, but just a little bit struggling. They haven't really impressed despite being on 6 points, I think.
No. Again, I think very good analysis from both. John, do you want to come in on that briefly?
Yeah, the part of the issue, I didn't have so much of a problem with the system change. Some of the personnel I might have gone a little bit differently, but I did understand it, the ones who were dropped, because they hadn't performed in the first game. But France seems to have a real problem at fullback at the moment. Patrice Evra, who's had a pretty good season for Juventus. It hasn't been his best, but he still had a decent one. Really struggling. Did in the first game and again tonight. Just really looks out of sorts. And when you've got players who are cutting in, I think Drew's right. Coman was definitely the better of the two out of him and Martial, because he was sometimes going outside and not always cutting in. But if you've got those type of wingers, you need your fullbacks to overlap to stretch the defence, especially against teams that are going to sit deep. And this is going to happen to France quite a lot in the tournament because they are a fancied team and teams are naturally going to sit against them. You've got to have those fullbacks to stretch, and Evra hasn't been doing it. Sanya hasn't been fantastic, and he's had a player who's had an okay season for City. I don't know what sort of options France have really got that they can change that. Because especially in that sort of system, when you've got the two players that sit there, and in Matuidi and Conte, if they decide to keep a 4-2-3-1, then the fullbacks have got to push on and be those extra attacking options, and it just wasn't happening, or the quality wasn't there from them at least.
The other thing that you can maybe do to switch it up tactically is you can even do almost kind of like Arsenal does. If you're going to play possession football and play a 4-2-3-1, those two center midfielders, one of them has to have some sort of creativity about them. If you can't just rely on Payet, just like the way Arsenal can't just rely on Mesut Ozil, and then you see how much better they were when Cazorla was in that deeper central role, and then when he got injured, how more difficult Arsenal found it to really create as many chances as it did when he was there. So if they're not going to get a lot of overlapping runs from the fullbacks, and if they're not going to get people on the flanks who can routinely stretch the back four, then you need a different source of creativity that isn't just Payet. And I agree with, Matuidi and Kanté are so similar. It's almost like France are trying to guard against the counterattack too much. You know what I mean? And if you put like someone like...
Yeah, it almost felt like they didn't need both of those players playing that role today.
If you put Pogba, Matuidi, or Pogba and Kanté, then you still get, Pogba. He's a very good box to box. He does have a really good engine on him. He can get forward and influence things. He's good enough to track back because he has a physical presence about him, and he can also pick out that long pass where if you see someone like Martial or Cohen making that run, Pogba can pick his head up and pick that ball out and just bypass Payet or Giroud. So that's another option that they could look at doing. I don't know if Deschamps has... The thing is, I think Deschamps doesn't have faith in the back four, so he wants those two holding midfielders there. And honestly, I don't think he should. I don't think, in the long term, I don't think Adel Rami is the best center-back option. I do think that Evra and Sanya are weaknesses, and I think we've talked about it before, that if France comes up against a better team with better wingers, even in the round of 16, even if they get someone like, say Ukraine finish third in Group C, France will get to Ukraine, and you have to imagine that Konoplyanka and Yarmolenko on those flanks are going to give Evra and Sanya a really difficult time, and that's an area that they have to have concerns with, much like Belgium as well. So
it's a really good debate. That I was just sort of sat back and just listening. That was really interesting. So good. I think you both make some very good points, and I think it'll be really interesting to see how France progress or get better. Because I think one thing's for sure, they're going to have to play better or be more clinical if they are going to go deep into this competition. So we will keep a close eye, no doubt. And as for Albania, I think they've probably hit their ceiling as far as results go thus far.
I did feel a little bit sorry for them because despite the amount of chances they obviously gave up, the fact that France missed so many and didn't take them, and it was that late in the game, you really did feel for them when that goal went in. Because you could see they were all like, oh, we're almost there, we're going to get our first point. This is, because it would have been very good achievement for them. I think getting anything out of this tournament is it's very early days for them, and they'd played okay, and when they'd got their chances to get forward, they had taken them, and tested Lloris a little bit. So did feel a little bit sorry for them. Their captain in particular really impressed me, Agoli, the left back. Despite his name, he's not a goalkeeper, but very, very good. So a couple of their players quite impressed me. So I think, is this their first major tournament?
it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think that they were basically just whatever points they could get, and and that would be their aim for it, really.
I think the one issue I have with Albania and Romania is that they didn't give themselves chances to really have enough options on players who could bring something different when it was necessary. Like Romania and Albania, they have one system they're employing, and to a certain extent it's worked, but sometimes you need someone to come off the bench who can do something different, and both those teams have those players that didn't bring. Romania has Alexandru Maxim from Stuttgart, and he didn't have the greatest season for Stuttgart, which isn't surprising considering how poor they were, but he's the type of player who can pick the ball up and run at people at pace, doesn't always have to rely on a long ball, doesn't have to rely on, just a strict counterattack, rigid style. And then Albania have Milos Rashica, the 19-year-old winger who plays for Vitesse Arnhem. He's much that same way. And Albania lack players that can do that as well. So in a match like today, where they had chances to maybe break against the French instead of just always relying on a long ball that a fullback can get back to, or Koscielny, we know how much ground he covers, how he can get back to. Maybe they needed a different type of player who could unlock them in a different way, but still on the counter. I think both those teams lack that, and that might be something they can learn for when they go into World Cup qualifying, but just something to consider for the long run.
Yeah, absolutely, and as you say, I mean, this is step one, isn't it, of their progression? So yeah, good for them, and they haven't embarrassed themselves. I mean, they've had some good spells.
Absolutely,
and, it's good. It is good for the tournament ultimately. If with this first expanded tournament, if teams who are less fancied are turning up and putting in good showings for the tournament moving forward. So, okay, well that wraps up day 6. But before we go, a couple of any other business parts to cover. Ukraine, Northern Ireland tomorrow, along with England, Wales, Germany, Poland. 2 big games stand out there. So I'm going to give you both kind of one each in the interest of time. So let's start with the late one, Drew. Germany, Poland, unofficially a derby, if you will. This is going to be blood, thunder, and everything in between, surely.
Yeah, I think it is. I honestly, Poland has such a good recent record against Germany, especially in qualifying. They look quite good. And only missed out on the point at the top of the group. I think Poland, if they create the right types of chances, if they don't allow Lewandowski and Milik to get isolated against Germany center backs, I think Poland can actually at least get a point out of that match. It wouldn't shock me if they won either. I think they're that good, and Germany do have certain concerns in certain areas, especially when it comes to who they're playing at center forward. So I think it'll be a good match regardless. A lot of people peg Germany as the favorite, but you really just can't write off Poland for me. But it'll be a great one. It'll be one of my favorite to watch in group stage for sure.
Yeah, I'm completely with you on that one. And John, tomorrow 2:00 we have the England-Wales game. What's your sort of thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this is really exciting. This is one side of my family against the other. I can't tell because it's difficult now because Wales are not the team involved. They've got more players that play in the Premier League. They've obviously got the superstar in Gareth Bale. They've got Ramsey, who, when he does perform to his very best, is fantastic. Especially the partnership he's formed with Bale over the sort of the few years they're playing at international level. Whereas you look at England, they're all sort of, for the most part, household names, got some great technical ability. They're a very young, energetic group now. They've still got issues, as all England teams do, but you would say England are the better side. They've been in the better run, but this is tournament football, which we haven't been great at. After the Russia result, they really, really need to impress now. And all the pressure is on England. I mean, Wales can go out there. There's no expectations on them whatsoever. So the pressure really is on England. It wouldn't surprise me if there was a few changes in the English midfield. The one interesting one will be the forward line, because Roy Hodgson has made some strange decisions. It's fair to say the top 3 English strikers. I can't remember who tweeted this, but I did see it today. So apologies for whoever it was who tweeted it. But the top 3 English strikers in the Premier League last season, one is currently taking corners for England. One is sat on the bench, and the other one is sat at home, and his name is Jermaine Defoe. So yeah, there's some changes that need to be made if England want to get through the group. But yeah, they've got to at least get something out of the game, if not win it.
I think again, I think you're absolutely bang on. I think there's got to be any winner in that game, and if Wales win it, crikey, they're in charge of the group, aren't they? So, and I'm not sure England play brilliantly under pressure, so we will have to see. Ukraine, Northern Ireland, just briefly, one word from you both. Can you see a winner in this? If so, which team? John, start you. Oh, go on, Drew. Ukraine, yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
I'd agree with Drew. Probably Ukraine. Northern Ireland, though, this would be the game out of the group that they targeted to get points from, and see if they could be lucky and maybe sneak a third place sort of best qualifier kind of thing. So I think that's all they were already hoping for in this tournament.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment, and we shall see. It's another game of another day of 3 games, so we'll see that action tomorrow. We'll of course be across it on the podcast. John, before we go, I haven't forgot your hipsters' choices of the day, but do you want to just give our listeners not so much an update on the fantasy football, but you put a tweet out, didn't you, before tonight's games?
Yes, I can't check the leagues right now because the lovely website that we're using is currently updating the scores still because it takes that long because it's run by UEFA. Anyway, yeah, I did put a tweet out earlier today, and it was just a quick update of the top 3 teams. I'm just going to scroll down and see if I can find them. Unfortunately, because it's on that website, it hasn't got everyone's Twitter @, so I couldn't actually put your Twitter @ in them. Oh God, look, we've tweeted so much rubbish today, I can't even find it. But if you scroll back through our timeline, it will tell you who's top 3 at the moment in the fantasy football. Ross, here we go. Jabroni Ellsbury, Sean Barrett, and Guna816.
Jabroni Ellsbury.
Yeah, they were our top 3 before games today.
I don't know if you guys will understand the reference, but that to me is hysterical.
I do.
But yeah, so and in the Hipster standings, this is before today's games. So basically, we're cutting off the competition for the Hipsters from here because I'm top, and then it's Drew, Kris, and Tom. Even though we're all on the same points, but I am still above them all. So I don't know how that works, but Ross was yeah. He was rock bottom of the league, but he did get lots of points today, so I'm sure he shot up the league. But yeah, Ross is still a little bit the butt of the jokes at the moment.
Poor old Ross. Although he did win some money off Dimitri Payet tonight, so well done, Ross. Okay, then we'll round off the podcast tonight, then, as we always do or always have done, with your Hipsters choices of the day. Drew, let's get your nomination.
Oh, I think it's got to be Dimitri Payet.
Oh, he's gone big. John?
John's going to say Hamsik.
Yeah, I was thinking that, actually, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I would give it to Payet because he has been amazing, but Marek Hamsik, the finish, it was just... yeah.
See, this is so tough for me because I've got to adjudicate having really not seen a lot today. You know, that's terrible. Imagine James Richardson saying, yeah, here's a podcast, I've not seen any of the game, although I think he has before. But he's AC Jimbo and I'm Casey Pillock, so, you know, it's not going to work. But I'm going to go...
Could have a tie. They've got the same hair.
Oh, no, I've made my decision. It's Kyle No, it's John. It's you. I'm going to go with Marek Hamsik.
I'm all for 3. This is a conspiracy.
I know you really are. Yes, bloody Americans. No, I just felt that. As good as Payet, his goal obviously was good late on. It was kind of a second goal when France had kind of won the game, and I just felt Hamsik's goal. As I'm looking forward to seeing it because I've only heard, but I listened to the game via the BBC, and he did obviously an assist and a goal. He ran
the pass for Vice was almost as good as the goal.
There you go. So, and it is Marek Hamsik, who I do have a little bit of a man crush on. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to give it to him. So, well done, John. You get the vote today.
It's all right. Payet will just win player of the tournament. It's fine.
It's a fair point. And I promise, Drew, I will try my very best to get you a vote next time. So think carefully. You're back on tomorrow, aren't you? So
Yes.
super. Okay. Well, that's where we'll leave you today, then, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for tuning in, as always. I keep saying this, but we're having some really, really good numbers from people listening in. We're getting sort of new followers from all different parts of the world, all different clubs. And even though iTunes is still being really annoying, we're still working on it. What we're going to do is, like we said last night, we're going to keep tweeting the YouTube links. You can still get us on iTunes. It's just a bit of a pain that it's not dropping into the feed. So do explore some other avenues, Stitcher and YouTube or our website. I know it's a pain, but at least you can still listen to us. But thank you very much for everyone who has experienced us. And if you get a free hour and you're really bored, maybe go back and listen to some of our back catalogue. We do a regular podcast during the season, which we'll do again next season, which is a weekly European roundup as well as a weekly English football roundup. So go back and listen to some of the old episodes and laugh at how terrible our predictions are. Hey, John. So,
Not saying a word.
No, me neither. Actually, my predictions were just as bad. But thank you very much for tuning in. We appreciate it. Tomorrow, Drew, you're back to cover Germany. I might be around. I'm the host, so I suppose I kind of need to be, but we shall see. I'll have a day off at some point. And then also, John, you're back as well, aren't you? No, Ross.
No, it's Ross
back,
tomorrow.
yes, to cover the England game. So
I'm off until Saturday.
Hey, unless I decide to take a day off.
Unless you take tomorrow off, yeah.
Write in, listeners, if you're sick of my voice, let me know. But Drew and Ross will be back regardless. As I say, we got 2.5, sorry, Northern Ireland fans, but 2.5 stellar games tomorrow. It should be great fun. And now I've said that, you can bet your house on a 5-4 walloping between Northern Ireland and Ukraine. So thank you very much for joining us. We have been #TFHP Euros, the football hipsters, whichever you prefer. Keep your pipe stoked, I never get that right, and your satchel clean, and we'll speak to you after tomorrow's games.
Now it drops for Fabregas, who looks for Iniesta, who's onside! Spain score! Hazard, Rodriguez, a match winner. Is this the moment? It is! Divock Origi!